Hi, I'm Jennifer Brammer, and I will be speaking about Gap Incorporated. I will begin by providing a brief overview of what I will discuss. First, I will present my position statement. Next, I will summarize my analysis. And finally, I will provide internal and external recommendations formulated by my analysis. My position statement addresses the exemplary work that Gap has already done and how they have progressed ahead of societal norms and expectations, particularly for gender. However, I also address how society as a whole can improve and how society also needs to be adjusted in order for any type of organization or company, even Gap Incorporated, to improve. I will now state my position statement. Gap Incorporated exemplifies the culture that the workforce and society must adopt in order to resolve issues of gender inequality. Since founders Don and Doris Fisher opened the first Gap store in 1969, Gap Incorporated has always been successful in enforcing values of equity and inclusion, beginning with an equal partnership of the company between the husband and wife. Although the Fishers laid a foundation of equality and inclusivity for Gap Incorporated, the company must strengthen and expand its principles to honor the Fishers' legacy, maintain a positive company culture, and progress ahead of cultural and societal advancements. Furthermore, universal ideologies and expectations for women must be corrected in order for companies, including Gap Incorporated, to take initiative in eradicating social norms, wage gaps, and female underrepresentation. Stereotypes of women's household, child, and elder care responsibility are ever present in social learning outlets such as the media, interpersonal interactions, and educational platforms. These stereotypes can impact any individual psychologically, implicitly, and behaviorally, thereby unconsciously shaping various environments into ideological driven cultures. Next, I will go over the company values, which are very present and enforced within Gap Incorporated's work culture. Gap Incorporated is a leading and exemplary company for inclusivity and equity. Founders Don and Doris Fisher laid the groundwork for its values by being equal business partners from the beginning and formulating a female representative team. In 2014, Gap made history by becoming the first Fortune 500 company to claim equal pay among genders for equal work. And this claim was also supported by extensive analyses and methodologies. Throughout its success, Gap has had an outstanding presence of female leadership, mentorship, and sponsorship, which can serve as a motivating force for women of all ages and occupations. Next, it is important that I note strengths and weaknesses within the company. As far as strengths, Gap Incorporated values flexible work and opportunities to engage in family related activities, functions, and obligations. Gap not only pays women equally to men, but there is also equal representation of women in leadership roles in various divisions of the company. Gap Incorporated also offers multiple child care benefits and services, such as priority daycare registration and tuition discounts. The work environment fosters an inclusive atmosphere by addressing difficult topics and providing opportunities to prospects who may have been previously unfairly compensated. Now, addressing weaknesses, there is a lack of consistent barriers, which can pose a risk of blurring work and home life, especially with the accessibility of technology. Next, there is an unequal representation still of women on the board of directors at Gap Incorporated. In fact, only 23% of the board is comprised of women. Although Gap does offer generous child care services, there are no child care services offered on the actual premise. And although implicit biases are discussed, it is not clearly stated that bias training is required of any of the employees. This brings me to my internal recommendations for Gap Incorporated. First, Gap Incorporated should implement clear and consistent boundaries to prevent the blurring of work and home life. This can be achieved by implementing the 3-tier escalation policy of calls, text, and emails ranging by senses of urgency to all divisions and job positions. It was said that only one manager implemented this policy. However, I believe this should be implemented throughout all aspects of Gap Incorporated. Next, Gap Incorporated needs to allocate more women to the Gap Incorporated Board of Directors. This can be done by perhaps appointing Gap veterans or suggesting the board be a next step for retiring leaders. Gap should also install an on campus child care facility and services. This can be convenient for family members and can also provide us peace of mind, which can ultimately contribute to productivity and quality work. Gap Incorporated should also require implicit gender, maternity, or paternity leave and racial bias training programs. This needs to be done in order to address and adjust any unconscious biases. As far as external recommendations for defying gender barriers in society as a whole, we as society need to defy gendered expectations such as housework, childcare, and occupational positions by being mindful of messages in development, media, and social learning. Next, we need to increase exposure to women in leadership and high paying positions. And this can be done by inviting women to guest lecture at schools, organizations, and extracurricular activities. We should also continue to advocate for feminist legislation requiring equal pay. The summit, the United States of Women Summit, was a great example of the types of events we should be partaking in order to eliminate the pay gap. We can also continue signing pledges, petitions, and collaborating with influential leaders to eradicate this issue. Finally, we need to implement mentorship and sponsorship programs not only within the workforce, but also in organizations and educational institutions. And these should not be limited to any age, education level, or occupation. Thank you so much for your time.